The First Descendant is microtransaction hell.
So if you've been playing The First Descendant, you know, that one game with the really good storylines and plot, it's a third-person
That's a good plot.
co-op looter shooter that's got pretty standard mechanics for the genre, so it's a fine game. It's built off Unreal Engine 5, so it's a gorgeous looking game with incredible graphics. But a lot of people are feeling pretty mixed about the microtransactions and the fact that the store is priced so high for a free-to-play game. And
I don't know why people feel mixed about this. The First Descendant microtransactions are a blatant scam. There you go. Blatant.
since the game is a looter shooter, it's only PvE, so the items you can purchase aren't anything that could be considered pay to win. However, you can definitely purchase items that will help you progress through the game faster with XP boosts. You're able to purchase a premium battle pass, characters, character and weapon skins, and increased inventory capacity. The in-game currency
Yeah, that is already pay to win by all definitions, honestly. Just the fact that you can buy more inventory means that you don't have enough inventory to begin with, and the developers very well know it. Now, there is one exception for a game like this, and that's called Path of Exile, where we kind of forgive that because the game's good. But yeah, this is not Path of Exile.
currency is unfortunately only attainable through buying it with real-life money. You can't earn it through playing the game itself. However, you can grind to earn new characters, but it takes a really long time. There was a Steam review that said the First Descendant released with more real money purchasable items than actual gameplay mechanics. I know we're all pretty used to games that are free to play usually bringing about a lot of purchasable items in the game, but I've noticed that a lot of Korean games have always had microtransactions in them.
Yep.
Specifically, a lot of Korean role-playing games have a ton of microtransactions.
Yep.
RPGs are the most common games to have microtransactions for skins, XP boosts, and whatever else you might need in them, and Korea has been utilizing this system for a lot longer than some people remember. But why? Why are so many Korean games dominated in microtransactions and oddly predatory items?
Well, the answer to that is super simple and basic. That's because Koreans are fine with it. It's a different culture, and different cultures think in different ways. And sadly, Korea, and a lot of the East, is, yeah, if the game has microtransactions that make me win faster, that's good, I will buy them. And there you go. Not a lot of people are against pay to win in Korea and other places. That's kind of the deal. That's how it works. And so game developers can make something in Korea, literally make it the game 1% free to play, and the rest is some kind of pay to win, and they're gonna have a relatively good time if people play this game because everyone's just gonna buy it, because that's how they do things.
Good question. Let's dive into that. Remember MapleStory? That adorable free-to-play MMORPG that released in the US May 2005?
No?
That was created by Wizet, another Korean developer that initiated the discussion around microtransactions because its users weren't just in Korea, but also now in North America. The 5 best-selling games in the United States at this time were Madden NFL 06, Pokemon Emerald, Nintendogs, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Gran Turismo 4.
Ooh.
None of these games had microtransactions, and instead they were just buy and play full games. However, World of Warcraft was the 8th best-selling game in the US that year after it launched in late 2004. So MapleStory and World of Warcraft are arguably the same genre, so you could compare how each did to the other around the 2005 to 2006 era.
I actually agree with this. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, yeah.
When no other games were introducing microtransactions like these two were. World of Warcraft launched with the requirement of needing a subscription fee to play, while MapleStory was completely free to download and play, but allowed players to buy in-game cosmetics and enhancements with real money. MapleStory was the first real Korean game to break through to a Western audience, and thus introduced new aspects of how business could be done with gaming. MapleStory featured cosmetic items for sale, but also XP boosts, pets, inventory slots, and drop coupons, which would allow you to roll loot boxes for random items. This was the introduction of
What a time to be alive, huh?
RNG and loot boxes to the gaming world that ended up taking off quite abruptly. That all started in 2005 and has just continued on since then. So microtransactions have ruled multiplayer games in Korea for quite some time. But why do Korean developers choose to go the microtransaction route so aggressively? I mean,
Money! Money! And more money. Yeah, I know that's a hard concept to understand and swallow, but there you are. I spoiled it for you.
If something brought in a ton of money for you, wouldn't you stick with it? Back in 2006, Pearl Research released a games market in Korea report and revealed that microtransactions made up for at least 50% of South Korea's $1 billion online games market. That was back in 2006 when microtransactions were only just blossoming, but Korea had already gotten its formula down. Whether or not these microtransactions bring in money from the Western audience really doesn't matter. They know they have their core audience down and can depend on their money being spent on in-game items. I really believe this is why.
Listen, when your culture demands that you buy sparkly looking fish and put it in a giant aquarium in your apartment because you have made it big in the business world, I mean, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that you can sell to the people, okay? Just saying.
Korean MMOs don't survive well in North America. Black Desert Online was fine, but people realized how grindy the game was and how predatory the microtransactions seemed because it really felt like you had no choice but to purchase items to help
Seemed, you say? Seemed. Okay.
you get through the game easier. Lost Ark is another example of things like this failure in North America, but why do these games seem to fail elsewhere?
Lost Ark is not a failure in North America or in the West, honestly. Let's look at. Wait, let's look at this. Lost Ark Steam charts. Let's look at Lost Ark real quick. How many people does it have? So, yeah, it's like 17 to 24k people per day. That's pretty good. That's honestly pretty good. Yeah, the all-time peak was 1.3 million, but you need to understand, Lost Ark is one of the absolutely hottest games on the market. AK, it's actually a lot more hot than something like Elden Ring or whatever, the DLC. So, it is an extremely niche thing, and it is still being this successful. So, that kind of tells you a lot. And yes, you can pay to win in Lost Ark, but again, I played Lost Ark, I enjoyed it for 1.5k hours. Really good game. And the reason why I stopped playing it was because Lost Ark just is too good, and you spend too much time in it. And, well, the daily quests were a little bit of a hustle. Every day it took like 1.5 to 2 hours to complete all the daily quests and whatnot. That was a little bit much, you see? But Lost Ark was a great game, and I never paid. I literally never paid in Lost Ark. Never once did I actually spend real life money for power boosting. Even though you can in that game, you definitely can. Pay to win is a real thing, but you don't need to, and you can still do all of the new content on release if you're just playing 1 to 2 hours per day.
I think we have to go and look back at South Korea's gaming culture. PC bangs, or PC cafes, were really just rooms of PCs you could rent for however long to do whatever you needed with them. But PC bangs entering gaming culture really left off in 1998 when Blizzard's StarCraft captured Korean players' interests. PC bangs then became LAN centers and specialized gaming rooms that people could come to just to play games they couldn't for not owning a desktop at home. PC bangs were also an interesting source of socialization because you knew most of the people in that room were gamers and they were, for the most part, likely there for the same thing you were. However, this culture becoming so popular so quickly, just as high-speed internet was also spreading worldwide, wasn't exactly the best thing for gamers in Korea. According to Statista, 92% of Koreans use the internet. In 2002, the rate was 59.4% of the people in the country versus in 2004, where it jumped up to 70.2%. To put this further into perspective, 71% of the population played video games in 2021. There's something to be said about a culture having access to the internet and technology so early that it feeds these players not necessarily in a good way. Internet gaming disorder, or IGD, is an established condition that's officially recognized by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, some people definitely play too much video games, spend too much time on their PC. It's the modern day. Let's face it, I spend too much time on the PC. You probably also spend too much time on the PC. It is what it is.
A lot of Asian countries have more people who suffer from IGD than others, and the American Psychiatric Association found that when these people play internet games, certain pathways in their brains are triggered in the same direct and intense way.
Now, to be fair, the whatever American Association for whatever also has found that there are 300 plus genders. So, take that with a grain of salt.
That a drug addict's brain is affected by taking drugs. South Korea has had many reports of gamers failing to take care of themselves.
That's also I don't know if that's even a remotely good way to describe this, because the reality is, yeah, you receiving good news or you receiving your paycheck also stimulates the exact same brain responses in a lot of cases as taking drugs. Okay, eating food after you're hungry also does the exact same things. So I wouldn't say that that's like the most believable point of evidence that I have ever heard in my life.
And sometimes even dying when refusing to get up from a game to take a break. BBC reported in August 2005 on a 28-year-old Korean man who collapsed in a PC bunk after playing 50 hours of StarCraft, and
Giga Chad.
his death was deemed heart failure from exhaustion. In 2010, CNN reported on a Korean couple who neglected their infant daughter to keep playing games, specifically Prius Online, that, ironically enough, required players to raise a magical girl. Their daughter died due to lack of food or attention. The games that dominated Korea
Whoa, 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 whoa. When she says attention, she means just a little bit more than just waving to your kid time to time.
for so long were games that required a lot of attention for long spans of time. Think about StarCraft, MapleStory, or any other MMORPG. Psychologist Professor Mark Griffiths, author of several online gambling and gambling addiction studies, stated that people liked playing MMORPGs for such long durations due to the social aspects. Griffiths said, quote, "They are the
Yeah, I believe that.
types of games that completely engross the player. They are not games you can play for 20 minutes and stop. If you're going to take it seriously, you have to spend time doing it." Korea is aware of the issues surrounding gaming and addictions, and in 2011, the Cinderella Law was passed that required games to add automatic shutdowns for children 15 or younger after midnight. While Korea definitely wants to tackle the issues of addiction and prevent people from hurting themselves or others while gaming, the bigger issue is just how much gaming has become a part of the culture. Video games are one of the biggest moneymakers for the country, and it's only
Well, gaming has become a huge part of the culture, also for a reason that they look at the world differently. You look at Japan and the collapsing birth rate, for example. Why is that? Well, because young people see no prospect in the future. They can't get the jobs that they want because, well, a billion different reasons. They can't get, partners that they want for a million different other stupid reasons. And, well, it kind of exacerbates this, especially in place in the south. Well, not in the south, but in the east. Social status is a little bit different than in the west. In the west, social status is something that everyone is trying to get, but no one really gives a shit if you don't have it. It's different in the east, though. People care that they don't have the social status, that they haven't achieved X and whatnot. And, that kind of drives them to a certain point of desperation to a degree, where they completely want to just shut out of real life because, well, it didn't work out in real life. And that's why they become recluses, neats, and, all of those things, shut-ins. That's also a bad thing that's very much connected to this. But in South Korea, it's a little bit different because you have these PC bongs where everyone's doing it, and that just creates more of that stuff. It is kind of wild.
only expanding, with Korea becoming the largest producer of mobile games that utilizes the free-to-play microtransaction model. According to Statista, the mobile gaming market in Korea is a little under $7 billion, and over 50% of Korea's population plays mobile games. I'm not trying to demonize developers, but when you see a monetization model that works and generates
I don't know how much I trust these statistics, honestly, because there's also statistics that say that 50% of gamers are women in the West, which is not true, as we all know.
billions of income, you're bound to stick with it, especially when you know your audience is susceptible to spending tons of money in your games. Gaming has always been huge in Korea, and microtransactions have been present just as long. Most Korean gamers do not care about the costs and just want the serotonin that comes from leveling a max character or even just playing games to escape real life. So microtransactions really don't mean a lot in Korea. It's not exactly the most uplifting thing to hear, but Korea is taking steps in trying to combat video game addictions. As for microtransactions, there was
China also is taking steps for that. A lot of countries are taking steps for that. I don't think we at the West are at the point where we kind of need to do this, but there may come a point where we also need to do this sort of stuff, honestly, at a point.
actually a game.
Well, that's after people figure out, a lot of basic shit that seemingly is trying to be rewritten. All the woke propaganda and stuff like that, where people are trying to rewrite reality and reinvent it from the ground up to include the fact that, yeah, 50 genders, that's normal. Okay, no, none of it's normal. None of that. A doll is normal.
Industry Act passed by the National Assembly in Korea in March 2023 that defines loot boxes and requires the game developers, distributors, and service providers to detail the type of loot boxes and information on the odds and probabilities of getting items publicly and easily seen. There are new laws being implemented to try and protect the people who are susceptible to buying more transactions in games, slowly but surely. As for the First Descendant, I think the microtransactions are definitely weird and overpriced, but they're not necessary by any means. Sure, some items can be bought to minimize the grind, but it's
The grind of First Descendant is huge, and again, it is predatory. For the First Descendant, it's 100% predatory as it honestly comes. You can grind for 50 hours and get a character, or you can spend 20 bucks to get a character. Honestly, you're an idiot if you don't spend the 20 bucks at this point to get the character, because otherwise you have to grind 50 hours for it. Yo, that is not cool.
PvE, so really who gives a shit? Thanks for watching, and if someone you know is struggling with addiction, call 1-800-GAMBLER for the National Problem Gambling Helpline. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.
Nice. That was pretty nice. That was Puddle Luck still, 10 out of 10. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye-bye.